Hello, everyone. So I'm really happy to introduce an amazing panel today to discuss how to fast-track the global reach of your company. And when I say amazing, I really mean it, because I think we have 3 super relevant speakers for this today. I let them introduce themselves, but starting maybe with Yann, CEO of Scaleway.
Thank you, Marie. Amazing moderator as well. So my name is Yann Lechelle. I'm the CEO at Scaleway. Scaleway is a cloud operator, and we're based in Paris, in Lille, largely French and European. And we do provide computing at scale for any application.
And I know you don't like it, but it's basically the European Amazon, AWS.
Yeah, quite simple definition, even though we don't necessarily need to compare to AWS, but a regional AWS is a good shortcut.
And Louis?
Yes, I'm Louis, CEO and co-founder of Alma. And Alma is an instant payment solution. So we work with retailers to help them offer financing at the point of sale to their customers, which is obviously the BNPL is a market that has been growing quite fast with a number of huge fundraisers. And let's say if we keep on these kind of parallels, that Alma would be the European Klarna.
And to finish, Victor, whom you might have seen in the news today quite a little bit, because his company just closed a 100 million Series A.
Hi everyone, I'm Victor Lugger. I'm co-founder at Big Mama Group, which is a restaurant group focused on very authentic Italian food, and more recently co-founder and CEO at Sunday. We're building the fastest way to pay in restaurants.
So my first question for all of you would be, how international is your company today, and what were the first cultural steps that you undertook to make sure that it actually worked at scale internationally?
So I'll start, I guess, but Scaleway is a company that is owned by Iliad, a telecom operator in France. So Scaleway started off as a very French company. And I joined about 18 months ago, and I found a company that was largely French, largely local. And the challenge for me was to turn it into a company that simply would accept that English was the game changer, right? And that's not trivial, because that means that we need to open up to new cultures. We need to actually change the way we talk on Slack even. And so that was a game changer for the past 18 months. We've doubled in size, and most of the people we've recruited so far have brought that, cultural aspect to the company, which allows us to look at the next phase of growth. So we've grown double, and we're going to double again, but this time we're going to tackle the international dimension. Maybe I'll talk about the regional aspect of things, because we do have data centers. So that makes us, our center of gravity is actually very local. So that dimension is geographical, and the other dimension is the cultural aspect, so that we can actually export to the rest of the world.
And so you're telling us language was actually a really big barrier that you managed to switch the whole company to English using different methods. Is it the same with a newer company like Alma, 150 people if I'm right, maybe 200?
Actually, yes, which might be surprising, but maybe out of all the startups you can see today, we're the only one that started as a very French-centric company. So at first, Alma was really about France, so wanted to serve French merchants, French customers, with French employees, and obviously language was French, right? So the lingua franca at Alma was French, was speaking French, internal documents were in French. And then at some point we realized that actually, the European market is just massively underserved. So we estimate that only 5% of the European market is served. And so there is just a huge opportunity to go to Italy, Spain, Portugal, Germany, Benelux, and so on and so forth. And so we're like, okay, no, we need to become European. And we just look at every Slack discussion, every internal documentation, the wiki. Everything is in French. And so now we're actually right in the middle of, we're opening 4 countries in 2021. So Spain, Italy, Belgium, and Germany. We have actually our first international employees joining us in a few days. And I would say that maybe now 80% of the content has been translated to English. And we are giving classes to about half of the company. So we have 130 people, out of which about 50 speak very little English. And that is a change. And so we are offering free English classes to everyone in the company with a moral contract that if your role needs you to speak English because you're going to be, interacting with Spanish guys or German guys, then you need to learn English or find a new role or leave the company.
And Victor, you choose quite a different route, starting 5 countries right, or maybe 4, right at the start of the company 5 months ago. What made you decide to do that very unusual go-to-market strategy?
Before we made that decision, so Sunday is an American company. My co-founder is American. She's based in the US. Before we made that decision, we have a history of building Big Mama step by step in the past 8 years. And when we opened our second country, which was the UK, I moved to London. And it was perceived for me as, wow, what a great opportunity to take my whole family. It was half personal, half business. And when we opened Spain, Tigran, my partner, moved to Spain. And so we felt like, and we went very much step by step. We felt with Sunday that we could launch directly an American and international company because I'm based in London, because my partner, my first co-founder is in Spain, because my other co-founder is in the United States, and because we've been doing business in France for the last 10 years. And so we've launched in 4 countries, but 4 countries where we practically live and that we know, and where we have, I would say, deep networks. I feel the biggest challenge, apart from cultural differences, is knowledge and having network in each and every countries. And in all the countries where we're present right now, we have this network and we know so many people. And when we said, okay, we're launching Sunday, we had the opportunity to reach out to so many people, recruit and onboard amazing talent, partner with people, because we were present already in these countries. And I would never have done it if we had not for many years been doing business in these countries.
Wow, so how do you manage, maybe next question then, with remote teams in all these different countries, how do you manage to keep everyone aligned on the company's vision and culture? Is that, or maybe it's not a thing, maybe it's yeah, I think it is, but what would be like your secret tips to make it that a reality and aligning everyone in different locations, different cultures on the same goal?
So my answer will be quite different from yours, I think, because, again, as I said, Scaleway is geographically, physically anchored by its data centers, because the latency component plays a part. So our clients will hover around Western Europe. That being said, we have clients in 160 countries. So they are quite distributed as well. The point for us is actually to become a company where we can tap talent globally. And my decision has been to embrace remoteness, telecommuting at scale, given the COVID situation. In other words, right now, to me and to the rest of the team, in fact, we need to provide a definite answer so that our people, also known as scalers, our people know exactly how they can build on their own life, how they can actually settle somewhere so that they can build a family, whatever they do for the rest of their lives, and as an opportunity to work for Scaleway, join the mission regardless of where they are. And to me, that is the war for talent that we're going to be facing. France is a small country. Europe is a fragmentation of small countries. And so therefore, I think for us, being global is more this notion of a mesh of people you work with. And then on top of that, you can build sales representations per country or wherever you need to tap the network, depending on sales enablement.
Yeah, I just want to go back to Victor's answer earlier about having a deep network in the country. I think is absolutely key to launching business, at least business like Alma, in new countries. So when we actually hire local teams, we look at the network a lot. So maybe for a general manager, you don't need a guy with a very deep network, as long as you have someone, an advisor, head of sales, someone who just knows everyone. So that's extremely important, and that's something we're paying very close attention to as we scale Alma. So that would be kind of pillar number 1. Pillar number 2 would be, as you say, right? We're in kind of a global war for talent. This is obviously, a poncif in French. And what I see is, if you're just trying to find talent in France, so your scope to the French market, you have a very big issue, which is that actually what you want is not people with good degrees, you want people with good working experience. So you want people with years and years working at scale-ups. And these guys, you don't have them in France, because 5 years ago, you had maybe like 3 or 4 unicorns. So like very
all
few.
The people of Criteo
Exactly.
have been hired. And,
Exactly. You have to hire Criteo, BlaBlaCar, and maybe, maybe Tableau Software if you're feeling lucky. But my point is, so you have like a very small pool of talent you can try to get people from. And you have, with all of these new large rounds and new exciting companies, a huge war for that. So we are at the worst possible time to be a French-only company, not enough talent for way too many companies. And that is why actually the switch to English and what you say is super important. We need to hire, we're obviously going to leverage our local offices in numerous countries as a selling point, to a Spanish guy, come work in France or in Italy, whatever, for the French people as well, and also embracing remoteness to make sure we can tap into the talent.
From our perspective, I would say at Sunday, the playbook and what we're doing is very similar between countries. Practically, we're enabling you to pay from a QR code on the table in restaurants. That works exactly the same in the south of Spain, in New York, or in Lille, or in Edinburgh. So knowing this, because we had tested it on an MVP, when we really launched the company, there is no such thing as different countries. It's like one big market, and that was very pregnant, that was very strong as we set up the company. And so it almost feels like there is no different country. It's one big, massive market with many people with like 30 nationalities already after 5 months working between countries. But we're lucky because we have a very similar playbook. On the contrary, in the restaurant business, where 99% of the value you create is created on the ground for very specific different people. A Londoner doesn't like the same thing as a Parisian, doesn't like the same thing as a guy in Madrid. I would say having different countries. I think we have a form of sane emulation between countries. Oh, and we've opened this new restaurant and it's so fucking cool. And I want this stuff that I've seen in our restaurant in Madrid. I want it in my next restaurant, say in Marseille. Oh, but can we make this kind of jokes in France? Yes, it's okay in London, but in France people might be shocked. Allez, let's try it. And I think it participates into each country being emulated by others. And in every country, you see you can do stuff, because in Spain, people would tolerate or like such a dish or such a joke. People in London are pretty fun and have a lot of humor. And then you reuse it in other countries. I have found it very, very exciting.
I really like how you explain to us that Sunday runs this as one whole country. I think you still have country managers. I think one of the tough things, especially when you're both local and global business, is to set up your organization so that roles are, because there are something that are country specific and some stuff that you want to put in HQ, and it's always complex to choose where are which. How did all of you, and starting with you maybe Victor, think about that?
It's an endless question. You recruit people from Uber and they will tell you need very strong GM, and you recruit people from the next company and they say you need very strong central ops. In a way, at Sunday, because we're going at a very fast pace, I've asked myself this question 1,000 times, and eventually I just trust my guts and my good sense, exactly like in the restaurant business, which is a business of very good sense, is we base it on people. And so the day you find a very strong GM, yes, the next day he's going to handle all the sales and all the customer success in its country. And in another country, your GM is going to be amazing, but quite a younger girl or guy. And so you help him with central ops for maybe sales, and he does just customer success. Or maybe he's a really great sales guy. And so your GM is very sales focused, but you help him from central ops with customer success because he doesn't know that playbook. And I feel it's going to be a lot back and forth over time. Right now, we have very centralized sales because it's about building the sales machine, which has been Kevin, that you know well, who introduced us, is doing such a mind-blowing job. But probably in 6 months, we're going to have very local sales, where customer success is now handled in every country. But we're realizing that the playbook is the same, so we're going to centralize it and build once and for all the processes.
And Louis, have you settled on a model yet, or like Victor, are you basing it on the strengths of your different people?
Yeah, I think what's surprising when you create it, that's not just about international, right? It's about any kind of company you create. Actually, I would say a certain level of entropy does scale, which is super surprising. Like you would look at Alma or any company similar from very far away. You're like, yeah, this is super well structured. These guys have got that kind of playbook figured out, and everything is very square. And actually, if you look at that, it's exactly as Victor said, right? We have, for example, our head of partnerships has never worked in a startup before, and actually have not done really lots of partnerships as well. And we just met her, and we're like, okay, she's extremely amazing. She's great. We just want to have her. We think that partnerships is kind of the role that would fit her, and so. Okay, let's go for it, and we'll figure it out, right? So actually, you do it as you go, and so that's true, for countries, as you say, but that's true for any kind of function, right? You have a very good head of sales. You know that your chief revenue officer doesn't need to be very good at sales, and so on and so forth. So actually, there is a lot of we don't have a grand master plan. We go at it as we go, and that actually works well.
Again, for us, it's quite a bit different because we do have a business that is part of a commodity with some singularity aspects. So your guys are doing innovation. So you need to educate the market, and you need to have strong networks to bootstrap the market in many ways. So you rely on good people who have intuition. In our case, we provide a commodity which is called the cloud, public cloud. And so the one target that we need to convince is developers. So developers are not a market. They are diffused in companies, in your companies. We need to talk to them. So we have one playbook, which is part having conversations with startups, because startups are cloud native or multi-cloud natives, which is the next game. And then we're talking also to developers individually. So that's why we built a different product for that. We built documentation. Documentation is a product at Scaleway, because that's how developers will connect with us. They see the quality of our product through the documentation. And the documentation is in one language, English, period. That's pretty simple. And that dimension for us is the enabler for the rest. So we do have a team internally that creates the playbook starting, we have France, of course, but we start with Germany for the actual playbook. And then we have the UK. We launched a number of countries, but we overlay the sales machine, the startup ecosystem for the conversations, and then, of course, the top-of-the-line product, which is the documentation, itself a representation of the commodity product. So it's a multi-layer aspect, and going back to what I said earlier, English is the enabler for a company that was historically very French.
So I have maybe a tangent question to the way I asked you all before about the European organization, or worldwide organization for Victor. Do you have, maybe for the entrepreneurs in the audience and all the managers in the audience, tips regarding management rituals or rituals that you do with your employees to get the knowledge spreading well throughout the organization, and to make sure everyone is part of your vision as an entrepreneur or as a CEO? If you don't, that's okay too, but I think you have.
It may be corny, but the point is values make a difference. And when you join a company that has been around for 15 years, the question is not to come up with values, but to actually find a way to distill them. What is the DNA of the company? How was it built? What's the history? Can we actually build on top of the history? Or do we need to, clean it up and restart from scratch? Once you can articulate those values are not, pie in the sky or words that you throw on a hashtag. The values are linked to things that people can relate to. And we harmonize that at Scaleway. We call it the cloud that makes sense, because that phrase captures what we actually intend to do, which is to engage with the community to actually explain what the cloud is, why it does make sense, why it actually consumes a lot of energy. There's a very good reason for that, and we can talk about it. It has to make sense for us. By the way, I pay the bill, the electricity bill of a cloud. It's expensive. It's very expensive. So yeah, I care about that. Our clients should know about it because it's part of their own bill. And the green aspect of things, people care today. right? We are all concerned. So aren't you worried about where your data is stored and the actual impact it has? You don't have the time to think about it, but you worry about it, right? It's part of the equation. So we want to make sure that these values attach to the principles, and that's how we connect everyone, hopefully, over the long period of time.
Okay, so obviously, values is a very big one, so I'm not going to come back to that. What I found like super useful at Alma is actually to create a vocabulary. And that is extremely powerful. So you can like explain strategy, you can explain what you want to do, how you want to do it, but I think what people like to remember is words that go well together. So you create a shared vocabulary that can be one word, that can be two words, that can be in opposition, and then you test it, you iterate, you start to hammer it, during the weekly meeting, during the monthly management meeting, so on, during offsites, and then you see that some of that is going to stick, and you're going to notice that people in the when they walk into the office, they're talking in that, they're using these words that you came up, right?
Can you give us one example?
Yes, I can give I've got like tons of them, but maybe, at Alma we use a lot push and pull. So what I mean is, we're talking about traction. I think people misunderstand what traction means. People say, okay, yeah, a startup with traction is equal to growth. And that is a total mistake, right? Growth is just a consequence of traction. If you have traction, if you have a product market fit, then you're going to get growth, But the two are not the same, right? And so the image I always use at Alma to explain the two is if you look, I've got kids, way too many of them, and so we have like lots of wooden trains. And if you have a wooden train and you push the locomotive, it's going to be a mess, right? Everything is going to hit, and basically you have just a mess of a train, right? If you pull the locomotive, everything gets in order. The wagons just are going to follow the locomotive in a straight line, and that is very true for a business. When you hit product market fit, before product market fit, you push. Everything is messy. You don't know how to answer your questions, right? And you try, it doesn't work. You try, it doesn't work. Then you try. You see that something's trying to pull. Sometimes your customers start to tell you, okay, you need to do that, and that you get traction, and that is traction. That is true for every early stage startup. That is very true for later stage startups, where obviously you do have traction, but what you need to create is traction on internal projects. So for example, we do B2B2C, so we integrate Alma in the checkout of our customers, so it's a B2B business, right? And we are starting to create a direct-to-consumer offering. So we are creating basically what is almost an entirely new startup in the startup. And today, that startup has no traction. And so the issue is like everyone in the company is only thinking in terms of, okay, we need to create feature X, Y, Z for our merchants. And so since the startup has no traction, it doesn't grow. So you need to find, I told the team, okay, we need to get as fast as possible to the first small amount of traction. So we push, but we try to push for as small a time as possible before we switch to a pull where we start to get traction. And that's stuck with the whole team. And everyone is talking about push and pull. Are we in push mode? Are we in pull mode? And that is, I think, extremely powerful.
Yeah, that gets shared memories for everyone and shares words to connect into. And I really love it.
It's a great feedback. In a very short span, because we launched the company 5 months ago, in a very short span, we've aggregated so much talent from so many great companies. And so we've tried to refine all the great rituals, as you say. And I wish I had the answer to your question, but I don't. I fucking don't. I feel one of the things I find really useful, and it's worse in Sunday where we're 5 months old, and it's worse at Big Mama where we're 8 years old, is I repeat and repeat and repeat every week. What's our mission? What's our purpose? The why, how, what? And it feels like, oh, come on, I'm not going to say it again. But actually, when you're on board 170 people in 5 months, but even at Big Mama, where it's not at that prism, it feels super useful. Because at least as one of the co-founder, it feels like you're driving the car and you see the virage, so it's fine. But actually, everyone's in the back of the car and is getting like this all the time. And so eventually, yes, there are so many rituals and so many small stuff that you can do and how you do a management meeting and all of that, but practically saying again and again the why, how, what of the company, explaining it to the whole team, taking questions, first helps me, I think helps everyone, and it's every week. And I think the second thing is I try and spend so much time individually with people And it's not just like a vague word, because practically what that means is every week I look at my calendar and I'm like, what can I not do so as to spend time? Because I don't work like 90 hours a week. So if I'm doing this, there is something else I'm not doing. And so I'm really trying to emphasize spending time, because eventually it feels like it's more about making everyone passionate, and then they'll sort it out what they have to do. But my job is to make everyone passionate, and I do that by spending time. So in like literally 3 minutes, I'm heading and having like drinks with senior engineers. But I know that is going to massively create value.
I really find this amazing, because I think the conclusion of this whole talk was to not think internationalization as system or easy tricks, but really focusing on your culture, spreading it, spending time with people, and finding common grounds to make sure that everyone really understands the mission of the company. And I really love that this comes out of this talk as a conclusion. Maybe
no tricks, huh?
Sorry?
Never tricks. I mean, it's never about tricks, right?
Yeah, it's never about tricks, but that's everyone wants an easy solution to a hard problem, and of course that's not the case.
Yeah, and Victor, what you said on repeating is key. Huh? In my case, I actually do the onboarding, the first meeting with the new recruits, and I do explain all the values, and I do explain the mission, the why, and the how. And then I repeat it every 2 weeks in the whole hands as well.
Maybe for a closing word, if you have one, maybe you have read books that has inspired you in your entrepreneurial journey, and can you share with everyone as maybe next step after the FD Day, something that really changed your perspective on entrepreneurship that they want to read as well?
Quickly, because I did read a book that someone offered me this summer. It's called How to Castrate a Bull by the founder of NetApp.
That I never heard before.
No. It's a very good book, actually, but from a decade ago or 15 years ago. And it's the story of this founder, NetApp, in Silicon Valley. But it resonates with who we are. And that binds to my theory that France is actually well positioned, or Europe, or whatever hub. Why? Because it's just a question of time and generations. In the US, Silicon Valley, they've enjoyed 7 generations of entrepreneurs that have been giving back and sharing recipes. We have in France 3 generations. And we can go faster. Why? Because we're in the sharing economy, we have the internet. So it's actually a very good time. So don't mind the book, read it if you'd like. But the point is, it's all about what we're doing here. If you hear a tip and you share it and you implement it, you do A/B testing, you'll go faster. That's the ecosystem.
Maybe not about just business. The Box is one of the best books I've ever read. So it's about the story about the shipping containers, which is extremely dry. Okay.
So we have the containers. And
exactly.
The pools,
you have containers. I do containers, but the big metal kind, right? Seriously, story of the box, something that everyone takes for granted. The shipping container, you go on ships, you go on trucks. That has been a disruption that has been extremely difficult for everyone involved. Took 30 years. It's an extremely good read. If you look at the Uber wars, this is nothing compared to what happened during the container wars.
My take on your question is, I wouldn't recommend a book. What I do, and maybe it's going to sound stupid, but I listen to Blinkist because that allows me to actually rehear about books every 6 months, and I just find all these books help me take a fresh look, and I see them very differently every time I listen or every time I read them, because my life has literally changed so much in 6 months, and so having the opportunity to reread them all the time actually helps a lot, which is why I usually don't read them, but just listen to them in 10 minutes, and I find I feel like I get the 80-20, but every time with a fresh look, tackling my new problems.
Thank you, all of you, for being here and for sharing with us the great solution to the tough problems. Thanks again for coming here.
Thank you very much.
Merci, Marie.
Thanks.